Hello and very welcome to our next edition of IDMonSite, where we are talking about actual political developments. And this time we are talking on the political situation in Kosovo, which we can say we are absolutely actual at the moment. And we absolutely appreciate to welcome as our conversation partner, interviewee, Mr. Bekim Baliqi, who is professor at the University of Prishtina and who finished his doctoral degree on the University of Vienna. So very welcome, Bekim, and many thanks that we can ask you in detail on the situation in Kosovo. So,
Hello, Sylvia. Hello, IDM. Good afternoon and all. It was nice to be with you in this connections, so to say, in a virtual manner. I am glad to be here with you and to answer your questions, if I may say, in very complex and complicated developments which are taking place right now in Kosovo, and of course in regard to coronavirus also worldwide.
yeah, you exactly touched the point, Bekim, because we face a government's dismissal of last week, exactly in the time of the corona crisis. And it is also said that these corona crisis measures were misused by political actors to just to claim the mistrust in the government of Albin Kurti, and what is a delicate detail that even his coalition partner also is involved in this declaration of mistrust and downfall of the government. So what is in your opinion, what can be expected on the political level, which will come? Are there to expect new elections, or will there be a new government formed, because new elections probably are not possible due to the corona crisis measures?
So there's not possible new election, but there is no possible also protest, and which movement Vendosa is very famous for protest as a protest movement. They began their political, so to say, development. So there is a situation where nobody knows how long can it take. Actually, there are Taci, as a president of Kosovo, Hashim Taci is preparing, let's say, talks with political leaders, party leaders, for forming a new government, which from the constitutional point of view, it's very delicate issue, because as a new mandatory will be again someone from a self-determination movement, and they reject to give a name of a new mandator. That means that they can postpone this until it's until begin, or it is beginning of a new institutional and political crisis. How long gonna take that? I don't know, but it seems that they are going in the new institutional and political crisis as well.
And before we go further to the political crisis, what is of course evident and also very crucial to know is the corona spread in Kosovo, because according to official numbers, corona cases are about 100. But I suppose these are only the official numbers, and what is also expected is not a political crisis, economic crisis, but also health crisis, health system crisis, because also the National Health Institute also recommended not the assembly to come together. And you have now a political crisis within the health system crisis. And what do you think about, yeah?
Unfortunately, it was like a betrayal, or it was like shock for society here, that in midst of that crisis, that the government, or even partner of coalition, LDK, began to call for a non-confidence vote of the government. So it was somehow paradoxical that someone within the government initiate something, and justification was that the Kurti, as a prime minister, had dismissed a minister of interior, and the issue was of a president or his opinion that the Kosovo should have let's say emergency status. And it is clearly that the rivalry between Kurti and Thaci was unpredictable in cases of when. So it was sometimes LDK was used somehow from the pressure, and the pressure came not only from the Thaci and within political forces in Kosovo, but mostly and most importantly from the United States and from the Special Envoy Richard Grenell. And you mentioned that until now the Ministry of Health has, which compared to other countries, compared to even countries in the EU, was recognized from the experts of health, of course, recognized as very well taken. So there was a clear signals that the emergency or the steps taken in this situations were somehow adequate steps, and they so compared to other countries in the Balkans, Kosovo had something above 120 cases, and only one cases with that patient, and also 10 to 20 patients which are now released as healthy. So the situation, it's not so let's say so unpredictable, or it's not so the crisis is not in the top of compared to Italy or to Spain, of course. Government responded to corona crisis.
Mm-hmm.
What of old rivalry between political forces within Kosovo, and of also geopolitical and geostrategical pressure from outside.
Mm-hmm. And Bekim, I would like to know now, because you mentioned the rivalry among Thaci and Albin Kurti, Hashim Thaci and Albin Kurti, which was to expect to escalate. And could you just say, is it for on the first side, is it the dialogue to Serbia, Kosovo-Serbia bilateral situation, or are there other struggles which are imminent? And then also the party constellation in all that, also LDK, why a government party also joins this government's dismissal. What is the relationship to Hashim Thaci, to the president in this specific constellation?
So there, as you probably know, there were during the Ramos Haradinaj government, there were tariffs, 100% tariffs on goods and trade with Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, and since then, since November 2018 was that, there was a huge pressure from United States and from European Union on Kosovo government to lift those tariffs. And the previous government was dismissed somehow because of the tariffs. And there was also guarantees from this government, from Kurti, and especially Ambassador Grenell said in an interview that they asked clearly that they support any government in Kosovo which can lift or which will lift tariffs and which will go to dialogue with Serbia. And the Kurti, during the negotiations for the government and for coalition, several times had declared that he is willing and he will lift tariffs on goods with Serbia, but he will replace that with reciprocity as a measure somehow on trade and relations with Serbia. And on that point, also LDK will has somehow negotiated, but then at the end has become, let's say, more popular reciprocity as a policy of new government. Then Kurti has postponed that, and it was intentionally that he also declared somehow that those tariffs are the gate for new dialogue, and on that dialogue, what we expecting is a plan of land swap between Thaci and Vučić. So, and even in his speech on the parliament during the non-confidence motion, he declared that there is agreement, there is existing agreement, secret agreement, as he said, and the replacement of him and government is because he is a guy, or he just blocked or somehow didn't let to happen that agreement. So there are also sometimes those, let's say, not clearly is there any agreement, because that was denied from United States Embassy immediately, and what consist on that agreement. So we heard that many times also from Thaci and also from Vučić and from other international actors, that they said there is no agreement, that both can negotiate, but the land swap somehow was on the air. So everybody talked about somehow secret plan, but nobody saw that plan actually. So it is somehow difficult to analyze something which is unofficial and there is no clear information, but there are many issues within political situation right now which are not clear, but fortunately the situation regarding coronavirus right now, it's somehow under control, let's say.
To what extent do you mean under control?
So there is no, of course, there are restrictions on the movement. The schools and public institutions and so on are closed. So everything is somehow like everywhere else. But so comparing to other countries, also in region, so 100 and 120 infected persons right now are in quarantine, and also there are several places within Kosovo which are put it into isolation, total isolation. But somehow it's not situation like in other countries which has taken so real pandemic.
And do you think so? Before we go back to the political developments, do you have the impression that people accept all the measures which are necessary just to be isolated, which are necessary for health reasons, and to what extent, apart from banging pots on balconies and windows, can social protest or social inacceptance of political developments be expressed?
To be honest, I didn't expect that the people will react in such way. So keeping social distance and not going to coffee restaurants and so on, which is unusual for the Balkans. The people, as you probably know, are very communitarian, so to say. So they are close in relations with each other. But I was somehow disappointed, to say that way, that the people didn't panic, and they began to realize that the issue is very serious. So and not only government, but in the last 3 weeks, actually, the people are very, so to say, put it in the right steps regarding keeping a social distance and keeping those measures which government asked for them. And as I said, I am right now very confident that the if it is continue to be in that sense, that we will somehow go beyond this crisis in 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay, this is optimistic perspective. This is really, yeah, this is really, we appreciate, because of, as you know, in Austria we do not have a time limit, but we are also facing other numbers than people in Kosovo do. And regarding the political developments, you suppose that there will be another formed coalition, and this without Albin Kurti. And Albin Kurti, as you also mentioned, he's a popular politician, but on the other hand, he also made, as you also mentioned, strategic mistakes in dismissing the Minister of Interior Affairs and all these policies. And also he and his government promised also to fight corruption. And what is the state about all these promises? And coming also back to one promise, and which came true, in fact, later on, is April 1st, Albin Kurti also tweeted that he had now signed this bringing down these tariffs against Serbia and Bosnia. From the political, how can he, as a prime minister, also be seen in all his measures he has taken until now, and also as an interim prime minister at the moment?
So his government has ruled only 50 days. And during those 50 days, there were clear, so he mentioned often, so as taken from the old corrupted elites, political parties, which ruled in the last 20 years, and which were pretty unpopular the last couple of years or months. And Kurti has come with energy and with the promises that during those 50 days he has done pretty much and organized crime. And then this suddenly this issue of non-confidence put at him as a hero. So he is, according to opinion polls, he is now one of the most popular leaders that the Kosovo has had since Rugova. So I think that even LDK, within LDK there are some forces, new forces like Vjosa Osmani and some of ministers, actual ministers right now, which are seen as the new generation within LDK. And I can suppose only, but I think that it will trigger also some rivalry within political parties. So after the corona or in post-pandemic period, we will face, or we will see also some rivalry within political parties. And there will be probably Kurti with some new forces coming on. Right now, there are talks that the new government could be from LDK and maybe Haradinaj and other political forces, but I think that they do not have legitimacy enough, and they will have a sure not popularity within a couple of months. That means that it puts the situation puts it right now put it Kurti on the very popular or famous stage on the political scene.
And
But
would you? Mhm. Okay, sorry.
yes,
Would you then expect early elections? So because the next elections after last year's elections now again, because would it be then a risk for Hashim Thaçi to form a new government or to declare a new one without the legitimacy from the population, given by the population?
uh,
Because these are
yeah,
early
I think
elections or new government formation.
that will be also that is also issue for the Constitution Court, because we had somehow similar situation 2017 2014, that the one party, which at that time was PDK, won the election, but nobody wanted to go in coalition with that party, and we had then crisis. So it lasted some 6 months or 7 months. We can have not a similar or more or less a similar situation, that we will have acting government in the next couple of months, because from the constitution point, there cannot be new government without new elections, and new elections, as we know, are not possible right now. So maybe, I think maybe the situation or the outcome will be in the next I don't know, after the summer, or somehow, let's say September, October, we could have a new elections, and that could be somehow exit strategy from this crisis. Until then, I don't see any possible solution, or maybe stability within political situation. And same, it is also similar in Serbia, that there was the elections were postponed. So it means something which happens in Serbia has repercussion or reflections also in situation in Kosovo, especially regarding the dialogue. So could not be any negotiations right now, because Vučić is not interested before the elections, and same it's also, or can be also, in Kosovo.
Mm-hmm. And so until the institutional court will decide it, and then Kosovo will face the next elections. Kurti will serve as interim prime minister. And does it mean that he will be exposed much more to national and international pressure? Does that mean that he in his political decisions will be reduced in his own possible or autonomous decision making? Because that sounds like
Yes.
all these signs kind of like it seems that it's well prepared, if I may say that, that he is just cut in his political autonomy as a prime minister, now serving as an interim prime minister, and also expressing that he had signed on April 1st, so 2 days ago, the solution on cutting off this 100 tariffs on material and imports from Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. But he could do it in all these 15 days he was in power before. And why now after this dismissal and 1 week after? Why not before? And what is the situation now? Does that mean that Hashim Thaçi now is the shadow prime minister of Kosovo? Does that mean that?
The party leaders are divided right now over the steps how to form a new government, and the issue is, everybody knows that the new government, say it will be unity government or technical government, whatever they called it, that the Thaçi will be actually the prime minister, so to say, in shadow, as you say, and nobody wanted that, because rivalry with Thaçi has not only Kurti, but also LDK has a long rivalry with Thaçi and Haradina and so on. So they are in dilemma right now how to act, because there is clear that there is a polarization within a political scene and political landscape, and then the Kurti is a rising star right now, and of course, and also he became also an actor which is from European Union, recognized it as such. So he had support somehow from Merkel, and he has a support from Borrell, and also Lajcak can be someone who can. So between Thaçi and Kurti, I think he will go for Kurti. But Thaçi plays on the very popular card on the support from United States, which is here more emotional, like as political or rational, let's say, position. Of course, it can be. We have different. How to say, different scenarios how and what can be, but I think the popularity of the Kurti tells us that he plays very well, let's say, on the card of next negotiation with Serbia, and his position was from the beginning very hardcore, and he is now playing that he can lift tariffs, he can be a tough guy, but he is the only one, so to say, who can reach that agreement.
And then among the population, what is in your opinion, what image do have these tariffs regarding imports from Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina? Is that positively perceived or problematically? So, what is your opinion about that?
I think
Is it in a way that also Albin Kurti knows about the importance of that specific issue, and just to follow the so-called vox populi and to lift that? Is it not only the pressure from above, but maybe also a pressure from beyond and from bottom up, correctly?
Yeah, there were continuous survey regarding tariffs and so on. And in the last couple of months, in the last 6 months, the popularity on tariffs was declining very much. And Kurti knew that the protest or reaction from the opinion will not be as so much or so radical as before. So he just wanted to have a right time and somehow to sell it best to the opinion, and he found this issue of reciprocity. So he just of course also during the election he said, we will lift the tariffs, but we will do something which is possible and which is also normal, in his words, that we will put reciprocity. So in that sense, if the Serbia accept our goods, we will accept also goods from Serbia. Or if Serbia asks from us any, issue which is not anywhere asked, so we will do the same thing. So somehow reciprocity was a replacement for tariffs and was accepted also from large. The only party leader which rejected and who opposed that lifting the tariffs was Haradinaj, and of course Haradinaj has it was his causa, so to say, political causa, and it was normal that he will react to tariffs. On the other side, the popularity of other leaders was not so much linked to tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think yes.
I didn't want to interrupt you, Bekim.
No, just
And because you mentioned also Albin Kurti as a representative of the new generation and of a new self-esteem generation, also in bilateral relationship to Serbia, and what is also your expectation? Maybe the new generation can also build up a kind of renewed relationship to Serbia and the neighboring countries. Is the popularity of Kurti, especially regarding on fighting against corruption, or is this also in an international context important within the country and on the international level? What do you think? Because the pressure on the U.S. government, as we could see also with the special envoy of Grenell and the cooperation to Taci, and it might could be also, if I may say, some disturbing factor in international politics.
I think maybe it's not exaggerated, but I think that in the period after the corona, we will face some global changes on the politics, especially regarding the old political elites. I don't believe that Boris Johnson or Donald Trump will survive after this crisis. And that means that also the old political leaders in the Kosovo and hopefully in the Balkans will not survive after the coronavirus. Because in the last 20 years, we saw the same who really were well prepared through clientelistic spread of their party members and corruption and so on. And Kurti was also hope for that changes. And cutting the government, so to say, or dismissing the government just in the beginning, it was somehow perceived, so to say, that those corrupted were united against ones who. So it was somehow a message which could help not only Kurti, but I think also new leaders, political leaders, to grow and to rise beyond those existing. And I hope actually that would happen also in Albania, in Serbia, in Bosnia, and so on. So and Kurti also has transformed himself and also movement. So at the beginning he was a left-wing, very populist movement. He was against everything and everyone almost. And in the last couple of because his party has also split it with two wings, and he just transformed his party more to moderated and social democracy. He is more accepted to different circles within Kosovo. So he's not a young radical leftist, but he's a more open-minded and cooperated leader, and also leaders within different or other political parties has chances after Corona to somehow to come in existence.
And you mentioned Hashim Thaçi. So from that point of view, Hashim Thaçi belongs to the old generation. And with his counterpart and also cooperation partner, Aleksandar Vučić. And when you see the US influence in Kosovo and the Western Balkans, might it be so realistic just to suppose that the US government at the moment counts on the old generation, and the EU, which has completely diverse interests in comparison to the US government supports Albin Kurti, and also what would you say also the role of Miroslav Lajčák, because we have now the news that this is officially included into the dialogue process of Kosovo and Serbia. So on which actors, international global players are counting on, and what constellation do you see here?
I have said also before, and I have to repeat myself, but I believe strongly that without changes within Kosovo and Serbia leaders, there could not be any agreement which is lasting and which is peaceful. Because we have both Thaci and both Vučić are old school. So they fought during the war, and they had the chance to be peacemaker. But they misused this opportunity only to be in the power. So Thaci is since 2011 negotiations with Vučić, and before Vučić was Tadić, and so on. And he survived somehow only because he was perceived as the only actor who can reach an agreement. And the popularity has declined, so on, and also international actors has realized that they cannot be the only ones who reached any agreement. Actually, they are using or misusing that point only to be or to continue to be in power. I think that new constellation especially after this crisis will be that they can somehow impose also more demands on the leaders to reach something which is tangible. Because we had with Catherine Ashton, who was before Lajčák, and we had then also Federica Mogherini, but we didn't perceive any not only agreement but also any carrots for those people. So Kosovo still has no visa liberalization. And the issue was, why should we gifts don't perceive, or we don't receive any welcome, so to say, from European Union? And I think also that Lajčák has a chance to prove himself, but otherwise, if he continue as a Mogherini or previous envoys, I don't think that he can has a chance to, or he can have a success on any negotiations. So firstly, I think also any agreement has to be something which is not only through leaders or only by them negotiated, but also the people or societies has to go more further to have a normalization of both countries, means that they have normalization of both societies. So, and I think it's very difficult, but it's not impossible to reach that.
And when you talk about normalization, what would you think? Because even among the EU, there is no consensus on the sovereignty of and independence of Kosovo. And what do you think this normalization could include among both societies? Because there are positions which cannot find a solution, as it seems at the moment.
It is paradoxical that both Joseph Borrell and Miroslav Lajčák came from two countries which didn't recognize Kosovo. So Borrell is from Spain, and Lajčák is from Slovakia. So they didn't both, and they negotiate somehow. So the question was, and it is discussed here, can they be somehow facilitator? So can they be neutral? But I think in both cases that they represent the European Union, not their own member states. So the position of EU cannot be regressive, so to say. And in the last now 12 years, Kosovo has proven that it exists and can be the factor of stability in the region. And I think also the opinion, not only in Serbia, so to say, but also in Spain and Slovakia, are aware that the independence of Kosovo, it's done. This cannot be any, and the land swap, it's an issue which, let's say, it's not only between Vučić and Taci, but it has a domino effect in the region. And I think that was the main issue why Germany and why EU rejected then that plan. Which is the best solution? I don't know, really. And it is only that I think that the best solution should come from the top down somehow, that the people will begin to live in normality with each other. And it is a matter of not only any peace agreement, but matter of maybe dealing with the past and matter of the beginning a new political culture within both societies.
Well, when you talk about bottom-up developments on culture and the normalization of both societies, do you see also now we have 1999 was the Kosovo War ended, and we have more than 20 years now after the war, and how do you see this reconciliation process, and also the general the relation Kosovo Albanians, Serbia also among Kosovo, also Kosovo Serbs. Is there a dialogue? Because when you talk about bottom-up procedures, developments, then this is maybe in the daily life. This is then important.
Yes, and that's why I believe that there is no peace without justice, and especially international community didn't invest so much in reconciliation and still in Kosovo 1,700 people missed from both ethnicity, and we had recently a declaration of Vučić about massacre in Račak. He said there was no massacre there, and it's just fabrication of them. So it's clear that there's still denial of what happened there. And I think that the first step to reach normalization is that we face what happened there, to deal with the past and to have a collective memory which is beyond ethnicity and beyond, and it means that it needs also civil courage, needs also more dialogue, more communication with each other, more help from the civil society, from academia, from media, from institutions. So and in the last 20 years we saw just how to say barricadation from both sides. So I'm from Mitrovica, for example, and as you probably know, the town is divided. In the last 20 years we didn't saw any communication, so normal communication within both communities. Also, there's a university in North Mitrovica, and the University of Prishtina cannot communicate or cannot cooperate somehow with that university. But we can do that with University of Belgrade, which is somehow paradoxical. So, and I think that this notion should come also from different segments of life, not only just from top down, or from party leaders or states leaders, but also from the communities and from the normal, let's say, citizens.
Civil society initiatives are very important, and in that sense. But regarding that importance, is it possible for civil society initiatives and organizations to survive? Because in the 1990s there were international funding for bottom-up initiative civil societies, and which appears that this just doesn't happen. And then in other countries, it's also criticized that civil society movements are in a way starving, and which is also in the interest of someone else. And do you see this also related to financial problems? And what might be then the solution? And in that context, EU funding is of course very important, and the perception of European Union is that also has that changed in the last I would say now 20 years, that maybe the glance of the European Union has maybe kind of not disappeared but was minimized.
Mhm. Unfortunately, that is true. I think just imagine that the state anthem of Kosovo is called Europe, and the flag of Kosovo is clearly in connotation with the European Union. But the citizens of Kosovo cannot move and cannot travel freely to European Union. It's somehow unacceptable. It also against dignity of the people. And I think the European Union, especially through mission which had in the region, didn't show the opportunity to democracy, which is, I think, most important thing is that we are talking about everything and somehow how international community can help and support, but we didn't support, or international community didn't support so much democratic values, and the people are disappointed. And that's why we had in the last couple of years the rise of autocratic leaders in the region. For example, in Albania, Edi Rama is a socialist, but actually he is going more on some Recep Erdogan style of governing. And I think it is because also EU didn't act very well and didn't give any exemplary model how to be a democratic state and how to value democratic or democratization of the societies. And that is what we are missing. So I think we should go to the roots of the problems, which are on the democratization of the society and of giving more power to the communities, and also moving toward economic prosperity and development.
Okay. So one last question in that context, when you mentioned also the disappointment regarding EU, I would like to ask you the importance of other international or global players apart from US government, maybe Turkey or Saudi Arabia, even China, which is important in Kosovo, which might be important, and how is this influence also perceived by the population in Kosovo itself?
Yes, it is very important, and in the couple of years, in the recent times, we saw the rising influence of Russia and China also, especially in Serbia, and it was perceived as a threat. Especially these military agreements between Russia and Serbia, but also Chinese economic influence in the region, in Macedonia, in Montenegro. It was perceived somehow as the let's say move of geopolitical positions, and one of the somehow most important issue in all these debates is also where will be the Balkans if those geopolitical positions will change after the corona, and I think it will be maybe one of the most important or crucial issues. How will world will change after the corona, and in that sense, of course, also the Balkans will be in the repercussion of those changes.
Okay, many thanks, Bekim, for the interview and sharing with us your knowledge and experience and expertise. What we will now wait for is the world after Corona, so the post-Corona time. And I wish you all the best. And for all our listeners, thank you for watching us. And we can only say, we stay tuned, and we just follow actual developments and appreciate to invite experts from all the region of IDM. So we see each other again. Goodbye.
Goodbye, and thank you also. Looking forward to meet you also again. Thank you.